Akhirnya saya just turun turun saya kau rasa pada maklum ngai bekeng saya pis.
Cil naga.
Jauh kupela.
Ya, sama tongkan itu toka.
Jauh kupela.
Toka sama.
Oh my God.
Kau nak kipas?
Just peel him.
Now, this film provides a stark insight into the paradoxical concept of freedom that faces the modern-day born-free South African youth. That's new film by actor, writer, director and producer Jafta Mamabolo titled Freedom, starring Nicole Mathope as Sonia, Jeffery Sekele as Goodman and the late Mary Twala as Alina. Mamobolo is the writer, co-director and lead actor in the film, and he joins us now via Zoom to tell us more about his latest project. Jafta, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Cynthia. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Just cold, but can't complain beyond that.
It's no use complaining, man. We just need to soldier on and do what we need to do. All right. Now, give us a brief synopsis of what the film is all about, Jafta, and what the inspiration is behind it.
The film Freedom is it's a modern day reinterpretation of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. So I basically I read the book about over a decade ago, and I happened to notice the parallels between life in Russia during the time of the emancipation of the serfs and life in South Africa as it's been for the past 30 years since our liberation and up until today. So I happened to notice those parallels, and I thought, okay, this could actually make a good story because it looks like it would be easy to supplant it in Johannesburg. And the story is, it basically follows Freedom. He's a young student in Johannesburg who came here on the back of a bursary and a dream. And of course, things don't always go according to plan when you come to the big city. I think that's why even like Jimmy Comes to Joburg is such a cliche when we describe kids who are coming from outside into Johannesburg, because you come here with a dream and then life happens, Joburg happens, because it's not really the easiest city in the world to navigate, especially if you don't have access to proper funds, if you don't have access to basically all the basic infrastructure that's required in order for you to function as a proper human being. And Freedom doesn't have that. And he's forced to make a very difficult decision. And because he makes that decision, his mind starts unraveling. It forces him to basically start losing his sanity, and as his mind unravels, the city of Johannesburg unravels before him with all the characters that he meets along the way, basically telling the story of the people of Johannesburg, but the people of Johannesburg that we often don't want to talk about because it's not good PR. So yeah.
Jafta, you mentioned lack of access to finances, lack of access to, proper infrastructure. And I suppose it leads to my next question. There's a multiplicity of views and narratives and sentiments with regards to freedom and whether freedom is real or whether freedom remains a fallacy. Because some people have been asking, what is freedom when we are not economically free? So to get a sense that this film or this issue is reflected in this film.
I think so, because people often ask me what my main intention with making the film is. And I often go, I don't want people to feel a certain way about the film, because I'm the type of filmmaker that believes that once the story is out there, then the meaning is, it's in your hands once it's out there. But what I'd like for the film to do is actually spark conversation. And that's conversation surrounding exactly what you said. And that's the concept of freedom and what it means to all of us. And do we feel that we've actually accessed this freedom if it's not also economical, if it's not also psychological, if we only don't have to carry our dom passes around, is that enough? And if it's not enough, then what are we doing about it? That's the question that I wanted to raise with this film.
Yeah, big question, and I certainly hope that South Africans take it upon themselves to answer those questions, and authorities take it upon themselves to answer those questions, what we are doing about it. Now, Jafta, you say that you wanted to tell a story that sort of reflected your realities as a young black person living in post-apartheid South Africa. So what are those realities, and how do they shape you today?
Well, those realities, man, I think one of the biggest things that people have been putting out there, and particularly people who've watched the film already, they've been drawing parallels with the film with the Fees Must Fall movement, and it's one of those things. It just happened to be pure happenstance that the Fees Must Fall thing happened to be one of the themes that the story addresses, because I'd started writing the film after I left Generations. I think that was around 2012, 2013. And the Fees Must Fall movement probably reached its apex around 2016, I'd say somewhere around there. But because my first year of varsity, I was at TUT, the Garangua campus, and already kids were already protesting for fees, for access to education, all the way back then. This is like in the mid-2000s. So it's an ongoing issue, and it's an issue that's been going on. But at the same time, you're just like, how are we fighting for something as simple as a quality education when since 1994, people have been running on the ticket of, you are the generation that can be anything and everything that you want to be. But then, sometimes in certain instances, it turns out that the very same people who are telling us that we can be whatever we want to be are the same impediments standing in our way. So it addresses a lot of issues. It's like it's like a diary entry into, I suppose, if Johannesburg was a person, I feel like this is what a day in the life of Johannesburg would look like.
What does the African dream look like in Freedom's eyes, given the fact that we see it crumble in the film?
The African dream in Freedom's eyes, I'd say, is the African dream in a lot of our collective eyes. It's the dream of basically, to simplify, basically climbing up Maslow's hierarchy of needs so that, we aren't that generation of Africans who's classified and put side to side with struggle and hunger and, lack. I think Africans, because also we're so enlightened as to the potential of the continent, it's heartbreaking and it's frustrating when you think about like all the things that you could potentially accomplish, but you're just like, there's certain impediments that are standing in your way that shouldn't even be there at this point in time. It's frustrating. It
really is frustrating, man. It really is frustrating because some people believe that we've been sold a dream about this whole, freedom spectacle or fallacy. Let's talk about your working relationship alongside your co-director, Ralph Zeman, and how that relationship was born.
Ralph Zeman, he's my film dad. Ralph cost me in my first ever film. So Ralph wrote and directed Jerusalema, which was a little small film that I did back in the day. So I met him there. And then also the executive producer, Tendega Matatu, he also produced Jerusalema. Nick Hofmeyer, who also shot Jerusalema, shot Freedom as well. And a few of the other actors who were in Jerusalema were there as well. So it pretty much was like a reunion of the team that brought you Jerusalema, I suppose, because that's how I know Ralph and I know that entire team. I've always known him since I was a child. And thankfully, there are people who believe in paying it forward. And thankfully, they've provided me the opportunity to also put my money where my mouth is and pay it forward to other young African storytellers who want to tell their stories and, want to represent Africa how we feel it should be represented.
Okay, great chatting to you, Jafta. Thank you so much for your time. And when can we expect to see the film and where?
The film is currently on box office and it'll be there for rental up until the 4th of September.
Okay, great stuff. All the best, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Numa.
All right, co-director, lead actor and writer of a South African film titled Freedom, starring Nicole Mathope as Sonia, Jeffery Sekele as Goodman, and the late Mary Twala as Alina. We just spoke to Jafta Mamabolo, who is the co-director, lead actor and the writer of this film.